your main image, the success of how many clicks you get isn't how beautiful it is. It's relative to your competitors. So a lot of people dive in and have, their designer, whoever they're working with, come up with a main image that's beautiful. And beautiful is good, but it doesn't necessarily get the click. So what I talk about in terms of making $1 million main image is how to basically figure out what your competitors are doing and how to make something that stands out like a sore thumb. And the best example I can give you was actually it was a thumb sticking up that made, it was one brand that did over $1.2 million in just over a year.
Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. Are you ready to unlock the full potential and growth in your business? You've already crossed 7 figures in sales, but the challenge is knowing how to take your business to the next level. Join Josh Hadley, an 8-figure e-com business owner and investor, as he interviews highly successful business owners. Get ready, because you're going to learn specific actions you can take today to help your business reach its full potential and leave a lasting impact on the world.
Welcome to the E-com Breakthrough Podcast. I'm your host, Josh Hadley, where I interview the top business leaders in e-commerce. Past guests include Kevin King, Michael E. Gerber, author of The E-Myth, and Stephen Pope from My Amazon Guy. Today, I am speaking with Matt Kostan, the CEO of Product Pinion, and today we have some amazing hacks. We've got AI tools that he's going to be sharing with us. We're going to be talking about how you can boost your organic ranking, especially as Amazon transitions to more AI-generated search results. And he's going to pull back the curtain and show you exactly what is working today. This episode is brought to you by E-com Breakthrough, where I specialize in investing in and scaling 7-figure e-commerce businesses to 8 figures and beyond. If you're an ambitious e-commerce entrepreneur looking for a partner who can help take your business to the next level, my team and I bring hands-on experience, strategic insights, and the resources needed to fuel your growth. So if you or someone you know is ready to scale or looking for an investment partner, reach out to me directly at josh@ecombreakthrough.com. That's ecom with 2 M's, and let's turn your dreams into reality. But today I am super excited to introduce you all to Matt Kostan. Matt is the CEO of Product Pinion, and he revolutionizes brand growth through real customer insights. His platform transforms shopper feedback into sales-driving strategies. He's a serial entrepreneur with over a decade of experience. Matt has scaled multiple 7-figure brands across Amazon, Kickstarter, and retail. And from product development to market domination, he is renowned for sharing actionable advice for e-commerce sellers through his engaging talks on world stages. So with that introduction, welcome to the show, Matt.
Thank you so much for having me. I appreciate it. And I know that intro was a mouthful, so thank you for having that out there.
Matt, you're right. You've spoken on world stages around the world. You and I met in Hawaii officially at the $1 Billion Seller Summit. I loved your presentation there and knew that you would be an excellent guest on our podcast because I think you have some amazing insights to share with our listeners today. So to our audience, make sure this is an episode that you tag. This is one that you're going to want to go back and rewatch, re-listen to, because Matt, I want to dive into, before we hit the record button, you went through, I've got noted 7 different hacks that I think literally are game changing, and hopefully we can get through all of them today. But Matt, with that being said, let's cut to the chase. Why don't you actually give people a brief overview about what Product Pinion is, and then we'll dive into the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, totally. So Product Pinion is like a complete platform to get the consumer insights you need to be able to compete with the big brands, right? So Fortune 500 companies spend billions of dollars to get insights, because at the end of the day, it's all about making products that are amazing, and the best way to do that is through feedback of the shoppers. So we enable Amazon sellers to get the insights they need to make those decisions to move the business forward and ultimately make more sales.
Love that. So basically, for those of you that are very familiar with like PickFu and Televi, Product Pinion is an alternative to those. It's actually the one that we have been using the most. So with that being said, the focus of this episode is not about Product Pinion, but I think that provides the background for all the hacks that you've been able to learn, because you've seen lots of brands come through. You've got some amazing case studies to share. And I think this is really going to inspire a lot of people. So, Matt, the first thing that I want to talk about is that what is the $1 million image hack?
Yeah, totally. So one big takeaway that I hope everyone gets after watching or hearing this is that, your main image, the success of how many clicks you get isn't how beautiful it is. It's relative to your competitors. So a lot of people dive in and have, their designer, whoever they're working with, come up with a main image that's beautiful. And beautiful is good, but it doesn't necessarily get the click. So what I talk about in terms of making $1 million main image is how to basically figure out what your competitors are doing and how to make something that stands out like a sore thumb. And the best example I can give you was actually it was a thumb sticking up that made, it was one brand that did over $1.2 million in just over a year. And the way to do this, it's actually really dead simple. So all you do is take a picture of the search results for your main keyword and jump into ChatGPT. And I can give you guys in the show notes the actual prompt, but it's nothing crazy. Basically ask ChatGPT, okay, looking at this image of search results on Amazon, I want you to tell me what each image has similar. What are the things that they're doing, that sort of thing. So then ChatGPT will spit out, hey, all of these things are all similar. So in my example, I was selling mosquito repellent bracelets. So you do that screenshot and it tells you, hey, there's multiple colors. They're all stacked in a pile. And, there's all these common traits, because we all kind of are guilty of doing this too. When you're first selling on Amazon, you just kind of see what other people are doing. It's like, hey, it looks like it works for them. They're doing 50,000 a month. I'm just going to do the exact same thing, which is okay to get started. But if you really want to, make a difference, you want to make it different. So ChatGPT tells you what's all similar. Now, here's where the fun happens. You then ask ChatGPT to be like, what can I do? Based on this, what are some ideas that are different? How can I make the image different? So if you don't have that creativity mindset, it's hard to even figure out what could be done. ChatGPT does the thinking for you. So in the instance of this mosquito repellent band, some of the suggestions were, hey, can you show it on someone's wrist, right? Can you do some lifestyle imagery? Can you make it a solid color instead of these circus multicolor wristbands? Can it be a solid color? And interestingly enough, that's, I'm looking at it in retrospect, because this brand was like, 5 years ago before ChatGPT, but we did all those things. And crazy enough, that's what kind of helped get the brand noticed. So we had an image of a mosquito repellent brand with the guy with the thumbs up, and it got all the attention. It got the clicks. And that was I think it was probably the biggest factor in that brand growing so quickly when we launched it. So really, really easy to do. Literally ask ChatGPT, hey, how can I make something that stands out, make it different? And you'll get so many ideas that you can then send to the designer. Then you can, get some things created that will actually stand out and make a difference.
Yeah, I love that hack, because I think that this is a prompt that you could give to your graphic designers and have them, you could systematize this out. So Matt, if you'll make sure, we will put these prompts in the show notes, because we all know that with ChatGPT, it's crap in, crap out. So we want to get your magic keywords and phrases that you're using in order to get amazing insights, because I love that. And I think that the way I use ChatGPT is it's just a source of inspiration and idea generation. It's not a copy and paste type of, I think, AI tool for myself. It's more of a tool to get my interest going on something, spark an idea or two, and then I can run with it the rest of the way. So
totally
love that, Matt. All right. So Matt, there's a new tool that you're going to be releasing, AI tool that is going to be, in my opinion, game changing when it comes to creating main images on Amazon. In addition to that, you're working on getting a patent for this because it is so revolutionary. So Matt, why don't you pull back the curtain and let us know what you're working on right now?
Yeah, I appreciate that. So essentially, one of the biggest hurdles to doing split tests from a seller is, hey, I got to create new designs, right? And it can be a bit of a challenge coordinating it with the designer, hiring someone if you don't have someone on staff. So we got to thinking, like, how can we make it so that it's dead simple to create these main images that actually get clicks? And there are a lot of tools out there. Obviously, there's Canva. And Canva's great. I mean, obviously, use that if you know how to use it. But we figured we felt that there was like a lack of a tool that could actually be specific for making TOS compliant main image variations, and that's what we ended up coming up with. So it took about 7-8 months in development to get the models right, that sort of thing. And in a nutshell, it's called Variationizer. And what it'll do is you take your main product, and it can generate, one of the cool things is it can generate AI assets on the fly that don't have the background. So you can manipulate it as you see fit and very quickly and easily create these compositions of main images that look great. And what's more, obviously, it's integrated with Product Pinion. So in a click, you can also run a test to see which of these variations will work. And I can show kind of rough idea of what it looks like and what it can do. Let me just share the screen here.
So to all of the listeners, make sure you go check out the podcast on YouTube so that you can see Matt and I, not necessarily for our beautiful faces, but for what he's sharing here.
Yeah, so it's variationizer.com, and essentially in a nutshell, this is what it looks like. So it's not just the AI asset. So for example, right now for everyone listening, basically there's a canvas. It has a baking pan. The product we're selling here is a cookie baking pan. We generated a stack of delicious chocolate chip cookies right there. So I mean, if you're selling this baking pan, you're really selling the end result, which is the cookies. But in addition to the AI stuff, we also do things to make all the best practices really easy. So for example, putting your keyword on the image. Your main keyword is super important. So sometimes that includes having packaging. So that wrap, for example, was put on by our tool so that you can easily write out, cookie baking pan right on it. So people know when they're searching, this is the one I want. This is the one I'm gonna click. But say, for example, you want brownies instead, or you want to do a test to see if the cookies versus the brownies will move the needle. With this AI asset creator, you literally just say, hey, I want some brownies, and it generates the brownies. So another hurdle that we've heard from customers, even just with AI in general, like no one wants to become a prompt engineer. That's not my gig. I want to be able to say, hey, I want this thing, give me this thing, and that's it. So we've tried to make it drop dead simple, literally just put, hey, what's the eye candy thing that you want in the main image? And we will generate it. And behind the scenes, we actually have some prompt stuff going on to do the best to generate something interesting. So now we have these beautiful brownie images, and we have this nice up close shot of this brownie. If you're looking at the webpage, it's like good enough to eat pretty much, which really, I mean, hey, I'm looking at that and I'm getting hungry, right? Another aspect of it, we have an AI drawing tool, which this is other tools have this, but it makes it very, for this type of purpose where you want it, maybe you have your main image, you just want to change a little thing or change a color of something or make something slightly different. You just highlight it with the pen and say, hey, I want to transform those cookies into brownies. And then boom, it gives you some options to select from there. The other part that's really cool, like I mentioned as well, is it lets you create these variations really easily. In one click, you duplicate it, you change something. And then once you have these variations, obviously, because it's integrated in Product Pinion, you click Create Test, and you're off to the races to create a test. So there's other AI examples that were generated on the page here, but it's actually and it took a while to get the models and to get all the things kind of lined up to make it actually work the way we wanted it to. And it's really good. I've been using this more and more, and I absolutely love it. I think it'll be a lot of fun for sellers to make things to win the click.
I think that will be genuinely game changing because we have a dedicated graphic designer where her entire job is doing exactly what this tool is going to be able to do. And then she runs the polls for us right now. And so this, I think people need to understand like how impactful this could be. Like this genuinely is like a first of its kind. And so, Matt, I love this. I know you're kind of in beta mode, and by the time this episode airs, hopefully that thing's going to be rocking, and I look forward to that. So,
Oh yeah,
thanks for pulling back the curtain and showing us something cool that you're working on right now.
absolutely.
All right, Matt, another thing that you talked about that's been very valuable for your own brand, and maybe you can share some case studies, is you're using kind of these polling software tools, whether it be PickFu or IntelliV, Product Opinion, to say, hey, here's the product. How would you describe this? Tell me about that. Why is that important, and how does that change anything for you in improving sales?
Yeah, totally. So everyone knows, or at least you should know, that the way search is happening now is changing. So search is a heck of a lot more conversational. We have Amazon's Rufus, hey, what do you want to buy? And people are being accustomed to, explaining in more detail what specifically they're looking for. Also with Perplexity, like I use Perplexity now more than Google, just because of the results, but then also it's conversational. So something that you can do, which is unique with Product Pinion, is a feature we call Pinion Ask, where you don't necessarily have to have people actually select an option. If you've ever used Google Forms, then you already know how to use Pinion Ask, and you can get feedback right away on any number of questions, and you can ask multiple questions. So one really good way to kind of get a feeling for if your listing is going to be ready for AI is just that. Ask people how they would describe it, or what are the most important qualities of your particular product. So one example that I did, which blew my mind, is I showed a picture of one of my products, and I've had this listing for 8 years, and I think I'm doing a decent job of optimizing it the best I can. I've done all the keyword research you can imagine. I've used all the tools to make sure that I was hitting everything. But then when I asked people, so showed the picture of the product, and I asked, I think it was 50 people, like, how would you describe this? Or what's the most important, in this case, it's a luggage tag. So what's the most important aspect of the luggage tag? And their response was like, people had obviously a whole bunch of different responses. So they're telling me all the adjectives that they would use. And in this case, they used the words sleek and modern. And the thing that blew my mind was I didn't use the words sleek and modern at all in my listing. So what that, showed me is there's a big gap. Like I got to fix this. And I feel like when we start thinking of our listings in terms of how people are going to be searching, we really need to up the game and just realize how important these adjectives are going to be. Yes, AI is smart enough to get the sentiment analysis of sleek might be the same as good looking, whatever. But if we have these keywords natively in the listing, we're that much more likely to be recommended by all of these searches. So quick and easy way, and this literally takes like 10 minutes. And you don't even have to use a tool to do this. Use Google Forms. Ask 20 people, 30 people, how would you describe this? And then all of a sudden you're getting real, so not just artificial intelligence, which kind of goes to the lowest common, safe way of describing things. You're actually asking real people, getting real intelligence on what they'd be searching for the product. So I'd want everyone to do this, because even with me thinking I'm like, hey, I optimized everything perfectly, you still find gaps that you don't otherwise find in traditional keyword research tools.
Yeah, I love that. And I think anybody that has a lot of different variations for a product, whether it's a theme that's like, oh, this one's like a mermaid theme, or maybe this one's like a rainbow or something along those lines, right? Sending that out, there may be different phrases that people use instead of, rainbow. Maybe most of the comments are like, I love the multicolored version of this, right? And it's like, oh, well, I was referring to it as rainbow, but instead I'm going to switch this to multicolored, right? Or something like that. So I think I love that, especially as Amazon changes the game with AI, and just having that keyword, at least somewhere in that listing, is going to help you get recommended that much easier.
It's
So,
also, I was also going to say too, it's wild what actually gets the click too. So another feature that we let you do is watch people shop. So you can literally see as people, we record people's screen like when they're on Amazon, say looking at search results, and they'll answer questions out loud like, hey, which one would you click into and why? And another example where this made a big difference is there's one particular product where it was an eyelash cleanser, and one of the ones that they were losing clicks to was a competitor that had in the title, it was vegan and cruelty free. And that resonated so much with, the target audience that they were clicking on that one just because of that. And if you did the traditional research of, helium-10, jungle scout, that sort of thing, you would never see any volume for those kind of keywords, but they resonated with the audience, and they were winning clicks because of that. So doing the qualitative research really kind of gives you another layer to make sure any gaps are filled.
I love that. That's a great case study. Love that. All right, Matt. So another thing you talked about, especially as it relates to AI, right? As things shift and more people start using Perplexity or ChatGPT instead of Google, how do you make sure that your products get recommended in those tools?
I love this. This is like my favorite thing because it's also one of the easiest things and one of the things that we should all be doing, right? Because again, we're building brands, we're building real brands. We're not just Amazon brands, right? So big part of that is getting press, is getting coverage in for your brand outside of we spend a lot on PPC, we spend a lot inside of Amazon marketing, but it really helps to take it to these external sources. Because it turns out that these external sources are used by AI to recommend products. So what makes it easy for brands like us is that there's sources that literally are asking for products. Like their whole role is to like recommend things, and they get paid an Amazon affiliate commission when someone clicks and buys. And every major publication has one of these. So New York Times has Wirecutter, Forbes has Vetted, CNN has Underscored. I have a list of these that I'll share in the share note in the notes as well. And essentially, all you do is you reach out to these journalists and you say, "Hey, notice that you covered, the best luggage for short travel, whatever. And hey, my product is different because of X, Y, Z. We should all have a differentiator in the product." And these roundup posts of products do just that. They list like the best in every single category, but these categories are made up, and you can make up whatever category you want. So if one of my locks, for example, is keyless, and they made up a category for me where it was like best keyless lock. Well, there's no other lock that does what I do. So perfect. I win that category. But the most important thing here is not even that you're driving sales from these posts. Like I don't even, you do get sales, you get referrals from it. But what I care about is the mention, because now when someone uses Perplexity, ChatGPT, whatever it is, and they say, hey, what are the best luggage locks for travel? My brand is coming up and beating Samsonite, these $1 million, $1 billion companies, because I have all these sources cited to my brand, and this is what AI is using. Amazon had even said Rufus uses external data as well. So obviously they have their own proprietary and they're going to lean on that. But, there might be some kind of going into the weeds of something else. But yeah, they can use external data as well. So by doing this, by getting your brand mentioned, I mean, not only is it just good business practice for any brand, like get on any list that you can possibly get your hands on, it'll actually help you long-term with it as well. And for one particular brand, we were tracking like an extra 200, 300 visits to our store just from ChatGPT. And those are the ones we can track, right? Because otherwise it just shows up in direct traffic because it's not a direct, if it's a direct link. So it's something that every brand should be getting on and making it a priority to be mentioned with the AI searches.
Matt, this is brilliant, and this is another game-changing aspect. This is why I want people to go back and rewatch this. I've got a million notes here for my own team, what we're going to be doing. But Matt, so on this note, so 2 questions. Number 1, on how do you know that traffic's coming from ChatGPT to your website? Is does it show up in Google Analytics that the referrer is ChatGPT or OpenAI?
Yeah, so it'll show up, but those are the only ones where so ChatGPT might just mention the brand, and then it's up to them to go find the brand itself.
Okay.
So these referrals are just a subset where they actually provided a link so that it can actually be tracked. So when I say 200-300 visits, it is from Google Analytics.
Okay, awesome, very interesting. Okay, so next question is this, and this is the key. How do I get my brand on those lists? So walk me through like a step-by-step process to get on these lists, because I also know that for a lot of these publishers, like BuzzFeed, for example, like their entire monetization model is advertising and driving affiliate revenue, like pure and simple. And thus you have people like Levanta, you have Archer affiliates, you have all of those other platforms that supposedly create those relationships for you, but it's pretty hard to still get some of them to actually take notice of your brand. So tell me what you've done with your own brand and how easy or hard is it to actually get on any of these lists?
Yeah, no, I love that. That's a great question. So my philosophy with everything is like, how do I do stuff differently? So you have to put yourself in the mindset of a journalist. And this doesn't just go for these lists, but it can go for like any time you're trying to get PR. And I've been lucky enough to eventually develop relationships with these journalists where they kind of give me an inside look. I've even seen someone's inbox where they call it being pitch slapped, right? So every day they get like hundreds of people just like, hey, look at me, especially if they have these big publications that are up there. So in eyeballs. So there's a few things you can do. What I always like doing is, don't just go to anyone and everyone. If I wanted to get press, for example, for a Kickstarter project that I'm launching, I'll then just look at the journalists that have kind of covered something similar, or at least in the same niche. And then the pitch is a lot easier. Like, hey, I know you mentioned this. Maybe your readers will appreciate this, right? Because we're different because X, Y, Z. The next level of that, and obviously not everyone's going to reply, and it is kind of like a numbers game of follow up and that sort of thing. But the next level of that is, and I've landed some really big publications by doing a simple video and customizing it to them. Mm-hmm. So, part of that is like doing your due diligence on the journalists themselves. So in one case, I kind of was able to creep them a little bit on their socials. I found out some interesting stuff that they liked. I think in one example, you like to go scuba diving. So I mentioned like, yeah, my wife and I went scuba diving, and you make some rapport. You send them a video and it's a little different. I mean, obviously you're still sending the email, but it's, the title is, hey, quick video for you, whatever it is. And the conversion rate, I mean, I didn't track it, but the conversion rate when you do these individual videos to these journalists versus just an odd email that they can easily ignore is wild, right? Like they'll appreciate that you took the time to kind of like get to know them, build that rapport. And, as long as it's on, it's a good match for them. Like, keep in mind, their job is writing. They have to write this. They're looking for ideas. They're craving ideas to write about. So if you can make a match with that and make it personal in a way that's not like overwhelming them with all these specs and details of why, whatever, your chances of success are higher. Now, to get back more specifically for these product roundup sites, so you can contact the journalists. So they're always listed like on Forbes, whatever it is. And sometimes you literally can just be like, hey, I noticed this list. We're different because of that. And, would you consider putting us in the next time you publish this? And that's worked for me. But there's so many other, like, you don't have to aim for Forbes. There's so many blogs and other sites that you can start getting mentions on. And it's kind of like a snowball effect. Once you start getting mentions on these smaller blogs, maybe lesser known, and you're kind of perfecting your craft of that pitch, then, you work your way up to Forbes and New York Times and whatever else it is. The other thing I've noticed as well is once you hit one of these, then the journalists, they'll actually just look at their competitors, and then they'll actually reach out to you. So in January or February of this year, Forbes actually reached out to me, which was wild. And it was like, hey, can you send me a sample of the product? And I'm like, For Forbes, absolutely. You can get as many samples as you want. By the way, here's the rest of my product lineup in case you're writing about those too, right? So it comes with practice. You got to kind of just do it, but always go from the frame of reference of, what does the journalist want? What do they need? And if you can, have that empathy and have that thought process of how do I make their lives easier? You're that much more likely to succeed with it.
Yeah, I absolutely love that. Matt, is there like a software tool that you're using or anything to actually find these editors, their contact information?
So nothing. Yeah. So actually, that's a good question. So typically, as a journalist, you Google search them. They'll have usually a portfolio site. You grab their email. I have used a tool called Snovio in the past as well, which can grab data from LinkedIn. But for the most part, it's just a matter of like grabbing just finding them, that sort of thing. And I do like to try to get their email versus DMing on social, and that sort of thing doesn't usually get that much of a response. But yeah, I have used Snovio for that.
Awesome. Love that hack. And I agree. I think you briefly mentioned this, that like as part of Amazon's A9 algorithm, is there a component of it, especially as they introduce AI? Is there a component of it that is crawling the web and looking for brand mentions? You best believe it. I would bet a lot of money on that's factored in somewhere, somehow.
I feel like they almost have to, because then there's a whole idea of like, if Amazon's biased and only recommending their stuff and not taking into account, there's going to be some trust issues around that, especially in the EU, right? Where it's like Microsoft has had its issues with that. So yeah, it's definitely taking that as a part. I mean, I'm guessing Amazon has said that Rufus does take external information as well too. I'm just guessing that of the level of importance that it'll have, at least now or in the future. I think it'll be even more, more important.
So I think let's double down on that then, because here's the advantage. I think right now we've seen more and more competition from overseas sellers. Okay. And they're driving, prices down, right? It's this downward spiral of everybody just dropping their prices because there's overseas competition. Now, how does a US-based brand, stay relevant, stay ranked, even if you have a more expensive product? And in my opinion, Amazon's going to come out with their cheap crap to compete with Temu and Shein and all that. That's fine, but I think that will have its own place. A US consumer, I think, gets tired of the cheap crap, and they want to, I think ultimately like 5 to 10 years from now, if I'm guessing, I think it's brands with a good reputation are the ones that survive on Amazon. So all of your overseas competitors that have stupid brand names that you can't even pronounce, like the fly-by-night shops that they don't have a brand presence. They don't know how to play the brand game. In fact, that's where our overseas competitors are actually the weakest. They cannot, and they are almost like they can't think creatively. So they don't have a true brand story. And so my encouragement to our listeners would be like, lean in on that brand story, lean in on who you are, and get PR about your brand. And you're playing the long game. Is this going to spike your sales overnight? Now, you might get covered in Forbes and it does spike your sales. That's great. That I would call that the cherry on top.
Yep.
But I think you're more saying like, my brand still needs to be relevant 5 years from now on Amazon. And the search game, I promise you, is going to change drastically over the next 5 years. And so the more you just become like a well-known brand, I think the easier it will be to compete on Amazon. Matt, what are your thoughts on that?
100%. Honestly, couldn't say it better than that. I mean, another philosophy that I like to talk about is, instead of making marketing, make kick-ass products, right? And there'll be competitors, cheap competitors coming and going. But I think for the long run, if the product, you view your product as the foundation, you're going to be in a much better place. And someone else had said, like, advertising is the fee you pay for an unremarkable product. Like, obviously everyone needs to advertise and that sort of thing, but if you view it that way, it kind of shifts things. It's like, yes, you can sell a ton of a crap product for a certain period of time, but if we're in it for the long game, it's all about making that product the foundation of your success.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think the other mindset shift that I've experienced as well is that if you can create a product that is so good and that truly like helps people serving their need, whatever it is that they originally purchased that product to be able to do for them, they in turn will go and tell other people about it. But it's got to be outside the box. It's got to be amazing. It can't just be an average product that just gets the job done. You've got to go above and beyond. And if you can create a product that is so refined like that people can't help but talking about it and showing it to their friends or family, if you can have one customer that then brings another customer for you, they do all the marketing for you. And so I think that's the other frame of mindset that you need to have is that, marketing is the tax for not having an amazing product. But again, marketing has its place. You've got to have some of it. But I think the more average your product is, the more you have to spend
100%
on advertising.
And then that's where you get to the place where if your own customers are doing your selling, price becomes irrelevant, right? So, it's $10 more, $15 more, but hey, my uncle recommended this, I got to buy it. Your competitors become irrelevant, right? So that's the play, like big time. Make the product so good that people can't help but talk about it, surprise and delight, and you're in the right position for the long term.
And is that not basically exactly what TikTok Shop is basically doing right now? I mean, it is social selling. It's people following individuals, and if they recommend a product, I've heard this over and over and over again. The product price for the same product on Amazon is higher on TikTok Shop, yet they are driving more traffic and more sales on TikTok Shop than they even are on Amazon. So to your point of having a higher, maybe a premium price product, they're charging a few extra points of margin there on TikTok to handle the extra fulfillment or whatever it is. But people are paying for it because it's coming from a warm recommendation, somebody they trust. They love the product, right? The influencers aren't going to be posting about average crap. And so I like that mindset. And, I think that's where Amazon needs to figure out that piece of the puzzle, because I can't tell you the number of times that when I buy cheap crap on Amazon, I'm like, yep, I learned my lesson. Like, yeah, that's what happens when you buy the cheap stuff.
Yeah.
And so how does Amazon incorporate that like social selling aspect? I know they have like the Inspire thing, but that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. But
yeah.
Anyways, I love that aspect, Matt. Now, I want to now turn our attention to A/B testing. And Matt, I want you to share, you've seen people do a lot of A/B tests, but your overall perspective is that most people, let's say 75% of sellers, are A/B testing incorrectly. So if they're incorrectly testing, what is the proper way to do A/B testing? And then share with me some case studies.
Yeah, totally. So, first of all, if someone's doing any type of testing, hey, kudos to them, because I think the majority of people, set it and forget it. They ask the friends and family and, good enough, that sort of thing. And they're leaving a lot of money on the table. So the proper way to do A/B testing, in my opinion, is within context. So you can't just test concepts in isolation. Like, hey, is this one better than this one, without actually seeing how it compares to your competitors. So your click-through rate is solely dependent on your competitors, again, and how everyone else looks. So in my opinion, the best way to test this is first do some concept testing. So have your main image, and this is where the variationizer tool kind of comes in, where you create different concepts. So say you create 3 different concepts and you try to get a feel for which one resonates better with your shoppers. Once you have a winning one, that's great. And this is where a lot of people usually just stop. They'll take the winning concept and they'll throw that up on their listing, or then they'll jump into manage my experiments with it, which is good and a great way to get going. But you want to understand if what change you just made will make a difference, and or if it's actually worth putting into manage my experiments because it takes so long to get a statistically significant result in there. So at Product Opinion, we've always had contextual testing where we actually mock up what an Amazon search result will look like. And that way you can kind of control all the variables and get some more accurate data. But more importantly, you can also do a baseline test and figure out if the concept you made actually makes a difference. So essentially step one is do the concepts. So see, hey, maybe putting this box on the image makes a difference. Maybe adding some more eye candy stuff makes a difference. Test those concepts. But then what you want to do is a test where you simulate the Amazon search results and you get a baseline. You figure out, hey, based on these competitors, what's my click share? Then you do another test with the exact same competitors. And with Product Opinion, you can also exclude previous tests so you can get fresh eyes on it, which is also important because otherwise if people see it again, there's a bias. So you do the test again, but this time you replace your main image with the winning concept that you figured out in the previous test. Now, all of a sudden, you can kind of compare apples to apples where, hey, the original baseline was this click-through rate, this click share, and the new one was this. And there was an example that we did just a little while ago where, we created these concepts. We thought the concept was going to make a huge impact and a difference because it looked much better. Again, it was pretty. It looked good. But when we actually put it into the search simulation, it didn't make a difference. And that kind of signaled to us, well, hey, we got to rejig. We got to come up with another concept. So we went back to the drawing board, came up with another concept, put it through that same test again, and then found another concept that actually made a difference and would move the needle. Once you find a winning idea, winning concept there, then obviously put it to Amazon, see how it affects sales, see how it works in that regard. But always be testing first in do some sort of high tempo test first, sanity test to make sure it's worth putting on Amazon's tool as well. So again, the big takeaway of this is your click-through rate is dependent and your success is basically dependent and relative of what your competitors are doing. You have to stand out. You have to be different. Doesn't matter how pretty the picture is. You need to make sure that it's different and stands out to the rest of the people that you're going up after.
Awesome. Matt, this has been a game-changing episode in my perspective.
Appreciate
but
that.
Before we wrap everything up, I would love to hear from you. If you have any other case studies, cool ways that people have been testing or changing things to optimize their listings as a whole that we haven't yet touched on, but you think our audience needs to hear about, maybe just some quick hitting wins and case studies you could share with us.
Yeah, totally. So there's another concept that we like to talk about called the index image, where it works exceptionally well for like gift type products and like impulse buy kind of products. And the idea behind this is you make your secondary image kind of a laundry list of the 4, maybe 5 points that you're trying to hit home with the whole listing. So these 4 or 5 points, you'll probably repeat in the listing later, like each other subsequent image will talk about 1 point each. But this is like the main kind of like index of all the things you're trying to like portray and get across. And what you want to do there is there's some nuances to it. So you want to number the reasons. People want to know where to start. So just kind of like a drop cap in a novel, boom, that's where I'm starting to read. You want to put that big number 1. Hey, here's the 5 reasons why this is the best. Number 1, number 2, so on and so forth. The other psychology part of that too is once they start reading 1, people kind of want to finish. So they'll go through 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The more content someone consumes, the more likely they'll convert. Amazon shares this data all the time, where they talk about how viewing in 3D and any more interaction with the listing doubles conversion rates, and that's coming from Amazon. So anything you can do to get people to consume more is more likely to get them to convert. In terms of the actual image itself, typically I'd say like, first 1 to 2, 3 points should be your key differentiators. Like, why is your product the best? And if it's not, I mean, that's a whole other discussion as well. But then point number 4, point number 5 can be something related to, and this is really makes a lot of sense. If you're a USA based business, our products are still, probably made overseas, but you can mention like, hey, support a USA based business. And that's not necessarily something that these other, Chinese sellers can say. So you're not saying that it's made in the US, but when you put the USA flag on there and you're saying, hey, help support small business USA, it adds something to someone's mind when they're making that in the consideration set of buying. So one of the points I would highly recommend putting that in. I do it for all my listings. For people that do it, they it works well. And then I'll also put in what I like to call a golden guarantee. And a nuance to this golden guarantee tactic is you don't necessarily want to just say 30-day money back guarantee. Everybody knows they can get their money back on Amazon more or less for any reason. But if you can make an interesting guarantee, something a little different. So for example, with the travel products, I'll say lifetime never lost guarantee. Airline loses your stuff, we just send you a new one free, right? So much more powerful, so much more impactful than just, hey, 30-day money back. So I'll also have that point on that main index image as well. So the index image is a great way to increase your conversions once they're on the listing. The other thing that I'm really pushing as well is just how do people understand the listing? So obviously right now AI is reading the listing images, so you can get an interpretation of how AI interprets your listing images. But do people actually get it? Do people get why or what message you're trying to send across? So there's a new test that we have, relatively new test in Product Opinion that we have, where you can actually show one of your listing images for 3 seconds and get feedback on what people interpret as the main point, the main takeaway from that image. And if you run this through your images, chances are there'll be a lot of confusion, and it'll force you to kind of like eliminate things and get it down to this image has one purpose. What is that main purpose? And make sure people, real people, can actually understand that, ingest it, and again, more information they understand, more information that they get, the more likely they are to convert. And that's the name of the game on Amazon.
Beautiful. I love those, Matt. This has been awesome. We went through all 7 of our notes that I had listed down of hacks, and you even shared a couple more. So hopefully our listeners have a list of notes and takeaways from today's episode. But Matt, as I wrap up each episode, I love to leave the audience with 3 actionable takeaways. So here are the 3 actionable takeaways that I noted. You let me know if I'm missing something. So action item number 1 is going to be focusing on that main image. Your biggest lever that you can pull once your product is already published and it's live on Amazon is to impact your click-through rate. And this is something that, again, you mentioned probably not enough sellers do this. And the unlock in my mind came when I was looking at and studying other like Shopify-based brands, right? What do they do? What is their secret sauce? Like, we know how to get ranked on Amazon. That's fine. But what's the secret sauce behind a Shopify brand? Do you know what it is? Matt, take a guess.
Ooh, secret sauce to convert on Shopify?
Yeah, what is not necessarily on Shopify itself, but like, what's the magic trick behind their business? Like, how are they getting their traffic?
The majority I'd say is like Facebook ads.
Yep.
Right.
So exactly. So what that means, like, their entire focus of their business is creative. Period. They have to be constantly coming out with the latest, best like version of their ad, because Facebook gets bored of the same thing running on repeat. You can't have the same ad and let it run for 5 years or even 1 year. Like, these guys are refreshing their creative every 15 to 30 days. And if you listen to Alex Hormozy's podcast, he talked about how that's all they do in the e-commerce brand that they run. They are changing out and putting out new content, like up to 100 different pieces of content per week, right? And
That's
so
wild.
if you have that frame of mindset of like, okay, that's what it looks like when you want to scale big. Okay, how does that impact you here and now, right? And so that's what I would say. Focus on your main image first. So that's my action item there. Action item number 2 is going to be using your $1 million image hack that you shared with us, which is, grab the ChatGPT prompts that are going to be in the show notes and say, hey, this is what the search results look like on Amazon. Give me some ideas of how I can make our product image different, unique, better to drive that click-through rate. And then last but not least, my final action item here is to use that variationizer, right? Brand new tool, or run some A/B tests, but you should constantly be changing out those images. And that variationizer can certainly help you scale up 10 times faster and test more. And I think this is the gist of this entire episode. Always be testing. Okay. Always be testing, just like you should always be launching products. I think priority number 1 in any e-commerce business is launching new products. And priority number 2 is always be testing to optimize the listings, optimize the titles, optimize those main images, optimize your creative if you're driving outside traffic. Matt, that's how I want to wrap things up today. Anything else you feel like I missed?
No, I love it. That you hit the nail on the head. And it also gave me the idea for, with Variationizer, right now, obviously it's main images. We could apply it to Facebook ads, apply it to like other aspects too. So that's super cool.
Love it. You're going to be the go-to. All right, Matt, I ask each guest the following 3 questions as we conclude. So number 1, what's been the most influential book that you've read and why?
Yeah, so this is probably cliche, but 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. I after reading the book, I pretty much hired my VA right away, and I've been working with them ever since. So I think it's like 10 plus years, which is pretty cool. In terms of a modern day kind of book, Dan Martell's Buy Back Your Time. I've been following Dan for years and years, and he's big in the SaaS space. And the whole book is basically how to like unlock your time, like realize are you doing $5 an hour tasks, right? So it's in the same lines, but he also gives a lot of like the same lines of the 4-Hour Workweek, but he gives a lot of like structure behind it. And to be honest, that's something I'm still struggling with. I've read it twice, and every time it's like, oh, I gotta do something extra with this. So yeah, highly recommend it for any entrepreneur. Yeah.
That's a great book. Love Buy Back Your Time. All right, next question, Matt. What is your favorite AI tool that you're using that you think other people need to be using?
I'm super biased with this, but honestly, the Variationizer tool, variationizer.com, it is fun. It is a lot of fun. And we were just using it the other day just to see how many variations we could create for a particular big brand. And we were able to create like 10 different main image variations in like not even 15 minutes, and they all looked really, really good. So I'd have to say that one. The other one that I really like, and to be honest, I haven't dived into it as much as I should, but Descript is really cool. I really like the way they run their business as a software business as well. So it's kind of partly I'm inspired by it, but then also the tool itself is pretty awesome. And Descript just lets you edit videos as if you were editing like a Word doc. It can clone your voice. So if you need to like say an extra thing or whatever, you can do that. And the studio sound. So if you do a recording and it's not great, so sometimes we're in the hotel, whatever, and the recording's not the best. It has the studio sound feature, which I don't know how it does it, but it makes it sound perfect. So yeah, in terms of video editing and that sort of thing, that's one of the ones that I use quite a bit.
Love that. Matt, this has been great. Final question here. Who is somebody that you admire or respect the most in the e-commerce space that other people should be following, and why?
So again, I'm biased, but my business partner, Andrei Sadlak, he is phenomenal at what he does. He has the dream kind of story where he immigrated from Ukraine, started on Amazon, failed actually and had to sell his house to be able to pay to get things kind of up and going again. And it ultimately led to a success story of him exiting a brand in a couple of years by using consumer feedback, having a Facebook group to develop the product. So I absolutely, super inspirational and very smart on how to use feedback to develop amazing brands. And then I have another one too, because hey, why not? But Dorian Gorski is like probably the smartest and most creative person I know in terms of conversion rate optimization. He's been dealing with multiple 8-figure brands, 7-figure brands, you name it, for like 10 plus years. He used to work with the Titan network, and he's kind of seen all those brands and he's basically seen all the things. So if you're looking for someone to take a look at your listing and know like that, like how to increase the clicks, how to increase the conversion, he's my go-to by far.
Awesome recommendations. Matt, this has been a fantastic episode. If people want to find you online, they want to follow your journey, learn more about Product Pinion, where can people go?
Yeah, so obviously productpinion.com, you can sign up for a free trial just to see how it all works. My email will be in the show notes too, just matt@productpinion.com. I'm also on LinkedIn. And just before we go, Josh, if I may, I have a question for you too.
Let's hear it.
Okay, so the question is basically, after achieving like a level of success, right? So for all definitions of the term, you're very successful. What keeps you motivated, right? Because a lot of times you hit a certain, hopefully an extra $1 million, if you're in that aspect, doesn't make a difference in your life. So what is it that kind of keeps you going, keeps you motivated to keep doing all the amazing things that you do?
Yeah, Matt, I love that question. So what keeps me going is having a much bigger vision for my own life in terms of, and I guess I'll pull back the curtain of what my intentions are, right? Over the next 5 to 10 years, my passion would be working with other brands, right, that are maybe hitting 6 figures, 7 figures, and they're struggling trying to scale out their brand. My whole give back in life would love to be watching them experience the same amount of success, right? And I'm a big believer that true happiness and true joy in life comes from serving others. There is no amount of money that is going to come to you to live a life like Jeff Bezos, where you have this super yacht and all that crap. Like, to be honest with you, I don't even want it. I don't even want it. And I know that doesn't even provide happiness. But deep happiness comes from like truly serving others. So that's the whole intention behind the podcast as well, right? Is like, how do I give back? I'm trying to share my knowledge. I'm trying to get smart people on like yourself to just give back. And that's where my journey started, right? I distinctly remember working my 9-to-5 job, and whenever I would have to travel, I was putting in a podcast. And that's where I was listening to people that were having success on Amazon. What were they doing? I would go implement those things. So trying to give back to somebody like myself is the whole end goal there. So is that a sufficient answer for you, Matt?
I love it. Yeah. Right on the money. Love it.
Awesome. Matt, this has been great. Thank you again for your time. And we'll probably have to have you back on the show again.
Love to.
Thank you for listening. Visit ecombreakthrough.com for more information. If you've enjoyed today's episode, the best way you can show your appreciation is by clicking the subscribe button and quickly leaving a review. See you again next time.